Hello and welcome to lesson 9.5. Today we're going to look at factoring trinomials of the type x squared plus bx plus c. Now with this type of polynomial, what I want you to realize is that there is no coefficient in front of the x squared term. Our objectives are going to be to factor trinomials. And I want you to know right up front that this is something that people will sometimes find kind of difficult at first. The more you do of these, the better you will become. So please give this an honest effort. I'm here for you if you have any questions. I can work specific problems out and post them, but please, I want you to try. If you get stuck, snap a picture of it and send it to me, okay? This will get easier as time goes on, I promise you. I'll even show you in the next lesson, I think it's 9.6, maybe like an easier way or a way that some students in the past have found to be a little bit easier, but I do ask that you try. And if you notice, I have broken the problems down in smaller increments so that you can at least try a few of them. So with that being said, let's get started. For some, so up until this point, what we've been given is something like this where we have some binomials. We know that we can FOIL because I do have two binomials, or distribute, whatever you want to call it, and we end up with a trinomial. What we are going to do now is we are going to be given the trinomial, and we're going to have to work this process backwards to end up with the binomials or the factors that created this trinomial. So what I wanted to show you with this example here is where all of the pieces come from, okay? Because you have a couple important parts, okay? The first one being that our third term, or our c value, comes from multiplying the 3 and the 5. And you can see that from this step up here. And the 3 and the 5 actually are coming from the second term of each binomial. So when these terms got multiplied, that created the 3 times 5, or the 15. Now to come up with your middle term, the middle term is actually coming from adding these two terms. Okay, and it's not just numerically that's what's happening, but you actually multiplied, you have 3 times x and you have 5 times x, and that's what gives you that 5 plus 3x essentially. So when we are doing this, what you're going to have to do is you are going to have to create a table, okay? And I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but I think this is the easiest, where you're going to want to do your factors of 15 here and your sum factors here. So factors of 15 would be something like 1 and 15. And when you add those, you would get 16. You could do 3 and 5 and get 8, and those are the only factors of 15. So clearly, if you're looking for a product that would give you 15, you have 1 here and 1 here, but you want them to produce a sum of 15 for that, or a sum of 8 to get that middle term. So that tells me that the factors of 3 and 5 are going to work best for this case here. And we'll do a couple examples to show you how this is going to work. So example 1, and notice it says positive middle terms, okay? So with this type of a problem, we have a positive middle term and a positive c value. So when I go to factor this, what I want to do is I want to find factors of 15, which we just worked out, and I'm going to create a table. So my table says factors of 15, and then I want to know what their sums are. Okay, so, and that's because I have a factor, or I have to have a product that's going to give me 15 here, but a sum for the number 8 there. So as we said in the previous example, we have 1 and 15, or we have 3 and 5. So when I add 1 and 15 together, I get 16. If I add 3 and 5, we're going to get 8. So I can see that I'm going to want these set of factors here because this is what's going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into an x plus 3 times an x plus 5. And this, if I were to go and FOIL that, would give me this x squared plus 8x plus 15. And you could, if you wanted to, and I'll write this down here, you could put, or I could have x plus 5 times a quantity of x plus 3. Either way, you're good. So looking at example 2, we have something very similar to example 1. Notice that we have a coefficient, or we have an x squared term here. We have a positive middle term and a positive c term. Okay, so I have to find the two factors that are going to create this trinomial. So again, I'm going to start out with my table, and in this case, I want to find factors of 20, and I want to see what their sums are going to give me. So factors of 20, I personally like to start out at 1 and work my way up. I know I'm going to have 1 in 20, 2 in 10, 3 won't go into 20, but 4 and 5 will. 6 won't, 7 won't, 8 won't, 9 won't, and then I get back up to 10, and I'm just reciprocating or reversing the 2 and the 10 here. So I'm not going to repeat those. So these are the factors that I have for 20. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down what their sums are. I have 1 in 20, gives me 21. 2 in 10 gives me 12, or 4 and 5 is going to give me 9. So as we can see here, the factors that I want to deal with are the factors of 1 and 20, because that's going to give me the sum of 21 in the middle. So when I write this out, I'm going to have x plus, because both of these are pluses, and when I say these, it's this and this, so I have x plus 1 times x plus 20, or remember, you could write this as x plus 20 times x plus 1, your choice. Okay, both of these are correct. For example 3, we're going to change it up just a little bit. Okay, example 3 says we're going to have a negative middle term. So notice here we have x squared minus 17x plus 42. Now nothing has changed process-wise. The only note that you have to make to yourself is remember that this 42 is a product. So to get a positive number for 42 with a product, I either have to have a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative. And in this case, because I have a negative middle term, remember this comes from finding the sum. So to have a negative middle term with a positive c value, that tells me I'm going to have to look at the double negative case. So I just know when I find my two factors now that both signs in the middle are going to be negatives, and I'll show you what I mean by that. But I am going to start with the same process. I'm going to create a table that says factors of 42, and then I'm going to look at their sum so I know which factors I'm going to pull from. So factors of 42, I'm going to start out with 1 in 42. And sorry, both of these are negative, don't forget. I have negative 2 and negative 21. Okay, 3 will also go into 42, so this is a negative 3 and a negative 14. And then 4 won't, 5 won't, 6 will. So I'll have negative 6, negative 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, so I'm back up to 14, and 14's already been listed. So these are all of my factors. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these up in my sum column. So I have negative 43, I have negative 23, negative 17, and then I have negative 13 for my factors. So again, I know if I look at my factors, I want to find the sum that gives me a negative 17. So that tells me that my factors are going to be a negative 3 and a negative 14. So my factors are x minus 3 times x minus 14. And if you wanted to, you could reverse the order, and that's fine as well. For our final example, we have one more negative middle term. If you notice, we have a negative 9x, and we have a positive c value of 20. So I'm going to start this one out by creating my table that has factors of 20, and we will then find the sum So factors of 20 are 1 and 20. And again, because I had that negative middle term, these are both negative. I have -2 and -10. I have -4 and -5. When I add these together, I have -21, -12, and -9. So because I wanted my sum to be a -9, I'm going to take the factors of -4 and -5. So this will leave me with x minus 5 times x minus 4. And again, you can always write those in the opposite order and they would still be the same. Please let me know if you have any questions on the part 1 video. I do ask that you give this an honest effort. Let me know what questions you have. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great day and I will talk to you later.